This is the Fit Femmes movement. Have you felt overwhelmed with your fitness journey and feel like you just want to give up? Are you a busy female professional or entrepreneur looking for weight loss and self-care solutions that you can squeeze into your hectic schedule? Then you're in the right place. Let's get inspired to make fitness and healthy living improve rather than consume your life. Together, we'll take major strides towards a happier, healthier, even wealthier you. I'm Julia Hickman, your host and coach. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Fit Femmes movement. So happy to have you here joining me again for another week, another episode, another lovely guest who is going to be sharing her wisdom, her story with us to inspire us to live our lives in a smarter, more intentional, less hustly, less, do all the things, push type way. You don't want none of that here. So I always love bringing guests who are going to share inspiration and show you guys how they're doing it, how they're getting it done, and how they're growing amazing businesses and, inspiring people and shining their brilliance with so many others. And it takes courage. It takes getting out of our comfort zones, and being on a podcast is one way that a lot of us do that. And one of the reasons why I love helping others with their podcasts so that they can share their voice and get that visibility so they can continue to grow their businesses in a way that feels good to them and that is, very easily to consume by others. So today we are chatting with Chianti Lomax. Chianti is a certified mindset and leadership coach with over 15 years of experience in talent development and organization transformation. She believes in the power of bite-sized habit changes. Ooh, my kind of girl. To help bite-sized habit changes that help to increase your well-being and elevate the overall human experience. She's worked with some of the world's most fascinating leaders transform themselves and their teams. Chianti is fondly known in the millennial community as the chief happiness curator of the Happy Pop-Up, a fun and interactive learning experience that introduces tools for positive psychology to the millennial and Gen Z communities. So I'm going to pause there and I'm going to let Chianti tell us a little bit more about herself. Chianti, tell us a little bit more about you. Tell us about give us a whole story and tell us what brought you here, how you got to be where you are doing the work that you do.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me, Julia. I'm really excited to be here. About me, I'll try to keep it short and sweet, but I grew up in Greenville, South Carolina, so I'm a Southern girl. And growing up in the South as a young Black girl, I think that a lot of the times you inherently adopt just belief systems around lack and limitation. And I grew up hearing things like, oh, well, because you are a woman, you will experience this. You won't be able to do these things because you're Black. You won't be able to do these things. And there was always a narrative given to me and something inside of me. And I always say my character strength is curiosity and resilience was oh, no, that's not going to be my story. I decided even at 10 years old, I was I get it. There are real challenges that you face being a minority woman, but at the same time, I'm I kind of want to try anyway, right? And so I just made a decision that I wanted to try, that I was going to be curious about the world, that I was going to ask questions and show up and challenge myself. And so I love that about myself, and I've always had it within me. And so this idea of transformation, being able to change my situation, I started doing it at an early age in high school and in college. And here I am 20 years later, and transformation has just been a common thread throughout my life, right? Personally, I've always challenged myself. Personal development is my favorite thing to do. I also believe in grace, but also how can I challenge myself? How can I become a better human? And so, like you were saying in my bio, like I've done it professionally as well. And so I spent 15 years in management consulting, helping large organizations like transform their people, transform their processes, their tech. And then I was like, I kind of like this people thing. Like I like helping people create their own versions of change. Like I like helping people transform. And so that's what really got me into coaching, and especially coaching women. It was this idea of helping someone along the journey, like being their co-pilot through transformation and change. And so now, in addition to the Happy Pop-Up, I help like high-powered women, so women who we do it all, we want it all, but help them create or change their lives. So changing from overwhelm to ease, because I believe that you can have both. I believe that rest and productivity can coexist. And so a lot of my coaching is centered around, how do I create a life of ease and still accomplish the goals that I want? How do I have happiness without going stir crazy? Like, how do I do all of these things at once? And so that's what I'm doing now. I'm focused on coaching women to create that life of ease.
I love that. And I can relate to some of what you're saying. You know, minority woman over here too.
Yeah.
Growing up with a lot of stories of like, well, you know, you're a woman, you're a Latina, you can only do this, you can only do that. You will never be able to get there. You will never be able to get there, you know, like, you know, those tables are not for you. Right. And it took, for me, I was not as bold as you were. It took me a lot of like inching myself forward to have the courage to do what I'm doing now. And even though like I knew that corporate wasn't for me, I just always felt like something's wrong with me. I was like, I'm just not good enough. I'm just not trying enough. I'm just in the wrong field. I thought it was about me. So I do resonate with some of what you're saying. And even though it's like different a little in many ways too, it's like, I know exactly what you mean. And I feel like sometimes having those stories and coming from those places of like struggle and like frustration and all that, that's what like makes us so great, like in helping people. And even though I don't really do coaching anymore, I still have, because I was a fitness and lifestyle coach, I just felt like being able to talk to people about other things too, because sometimes people are like, oh, well, I just can't do this one. Like, I can't lose weight. And it's like, well, how are other things in your life going? Right. Because they think it's just about that one thing. And it's like, we got to look at the bigger picture here. So speaking about that, since we kind of were touching on the subject of mindset a little bit, like how, like when you're working with someone, what's usually like the mindset that they're in, and how do you help them master that mindset? Like I kind of started talking about myself in fitness coaching. It was a lot of like, I want to like lose this weight and I can't lose this weight. And we actually had to like look at other things. Tell us like in your field and what you do, what that looks like, and how you can typically help somebody navigate that.
Sure. I think most recently, right, the work that I do around mindset with women, especially high achieving women, has been around money, has been around time, and just has been around like skill, right? And so from the money perspective, and even personally, right, like I can help people because I've been there. Similar to what you're saying, it's like, because I've been there or I've been in a similar situation, I can help them better. So especially around money, it's like, oh, I'm just not good with money. Like that's the excuse for not making money or not drawing in money. And it's like being able to identify that this is a story that I continue to tell myself. And if I believe this story, then guess what? Guess how I'm going to show up. Not being able to be good with money. Like if I believe what I'm saying, and if I keep saying it, it's going to create my reality. It's going to create this self-fulfilling prophecy of me never being good with money. So instead, and what I talk about most of the time, it's like this idea of having a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. And understanding that you can have fixed mindsets in certain areas of life. So like you may be the most fit person in the world, but have a growth mindset around like health and wellness, but then you have a fixed mindset around money. And so it's like, I work out every day. My body looks great. I'm feeling great, but I just suck at money, right? So it's like, wait, being able to say, wait, there's a story I'm telling myself about money. And what would happen if I changed the story? What would happen if I said, instead of I'm just not good with it, so believing I just can't do it, and saying, well, what if I could learn to do it? Or what if I found someone to teach me how to deal with money, right? And so I help my clients figure out how to reframe a thought or how to start telling a new story around a certain area of life so that they can change their reality. Because we know like whatever you say really can shape your reality because you start to operate from that place. So if I start with, oh, I can learn about money, which is my own journey. I started learning about money and I'm like, okay, I got the basics. Now I need to hire someone to teach me about money. So I got a finance coach, right? And then it's like, I can just keep learning about money. I don't have to be a master at money, but I can be a learner. And if I operate from a space of learning and this idea that I can learn to do something or someone could help me to get there, then that helps me to change this reality around the area of life that I've been stuck in, if that makes sense.
Totally. Yeah. I think that's fantastic. And I think it goes along with this, like the teaching that we give our children. So anyone who's listening who has kids or nieces and nephews or grandkids, we tell our kids, like, you don't just wake up and like know how to ride a bike or how to swim, right? Like you practice, and that's how you learn how to do the thing. And the same thing can be with like flipping our mindset to like a way that better suits us, like something that actually serves us rather than something that holds us back. And that can, I totally see that in again, like in my fitness past life, and even now, like with business, like if you tell yourself, oh, business is hard, oh, it's so hard to get clients, oh, it's, my revenue is never like improving, whatever it is, then you're probably going to stay that way, right? But if we can learn to say, okay, I'm not there yet, but I'm improving and I'm learning how to do XYZ, that like puts us into such a better state of mind, right? Like it just gives you better energy.
100%. And I tell people, I tell them there's 4 things you do, right? You like first learn how to hear it. So learn how to hear yourself saying the limiting belief or a fixed mindset, then recognize that, oh, I have a choice. Like I can choose to keep believing it, or I can choose differently. And then the third thing is just like talk back to it, kind of like you were doing just now. Like, oh no, I could learn how to do this. I could, and then the final thing is it's like, now that I have identified it, I made the decision to change it. And I can talk back to it. Like, what's the action that I can take to start moving in that different habit, like that different behavior pattern? Like, what can I start doing differently? And that might mean starting to listen to podcasts about money or whatever that thing is, health or whatever that thing is. Or it could be reading a book or finding friends that are great at it and talking to them about how they do whatever the thing is. And so you always want to figure out, like, how do I support myself in that change once I've changed my mind?
Amazing. Yeah. So how do you see professionals like hold themselves back when they're in that when they're living with those limiting beliefs, and those like not super helpful mindsets? How do you see that impact their goals and their maybe like their results and whatever they're doing?
Well, I mean, this can be in like corporate or if you're an entrepreneur. So one of the major things is for people who say they're introverts. They say, well, I'm an introvert and I don't like talking or meeting new people, right? And so if you are in like the corporate world, a lot of, especially in consulting, a lot of how you move forward in that field is through networking and walking to the table, making yourself available, making yourself seen and visible, and telling people about your experiences. And if you are stuck in this idea that, oh, I just don't talk to people. Oh, I'm not a cheerful person. I'm not a social person. So, that can keep you from literally being seen, being heard, and promoted, right? And even in business, if you're like, I want to have a business, and I don't know, I can use coaching because this is they're like, I want to coach people, but nobody knows how to find you because you don't want to talk to people. Right. Or nobody, you don't want to network and put yourself out there. It literally can prevent you from being promoted in the corporate space or making money in the business world. And both are just this idea of, if I tell myself I don't talk to people, you show up at a networking event, and what do? Stand in the corner because you say you don't talk to people, you're not going to meet people, right? Or you're in business and you're not putting yourself out there on social media. You're like, I don't do what you guys do. You can record videos and do lives, and I just don't do that thing. And guess what? You don't get money, or you don't bring revenue or call in revenue into your business. And so it can be in various spaces, whether it's corporate or business.
Totally. Yeah. That makes so much sense. And one final question. I know this is something that you wanted to touch on. So happiness, what does happiness mean to you? And how do you see it? Because I feel like there's this like the whole toxic positivity thing, right? Where like, it's almost like happiness just wants to be like shoved down people's throats, and it's like, just smile and bear and grin it, and like that's how it comes off. But how do you see happiness? What does that mean to you? And like, what would you want someone who's feeling like, oh my God, I just can't with this happiness like crap, what would you want them to like take away?
Yeah, one of the things I used to talk about when I used to do the happy pop-up is I tell people that I think happiness gets a bad reputation. I think that for me, when people hear, oh, you were the chief happiness curator, they're like, oh God, here she comes. And I'm like, no, let me be real with you. Like, I'm not waking up every day with like unicorns and rainbows, like beaming out my ears. Like, I'm not that person sprinkling fairy dust. Like, that is not what happiness is for me. For me, like it's like the sugar and the medicine. Like, the sugar is like the happiness, but what you're really doing when I teach about happiness is building your resilience. You're making yourself able to get through things a little bit easier, like creating more ease and joy. And I tell people that, happiness is a decision, right? It's about intentional activity. So instead of thinking about it as like big happiness, like little happiness, it's like, well, how do I just bring a little bit more joy into my day? Like, how do I do more things that create more energy in my day? Like, how am I energizing myself? Because when I'm energized, when I have more joy, I can show up better for the people in my life. I can create a more resilient family. I can be a better aunt, a better sister, a better spouse, a better friend. So it's really about, how do I make myself more resilient, so that in return, it's like a byproduct of that. It's just like how a happier, healthier family, happier, healthier connections. And that's what it's really about for me. It's like just bringing more joy, being more resilient. And I say, oh, we're going to talk about happiness. And I'm just like, actually, I'm going to teach you how to be more grateful, so that when you're having a bad day, you can get yourself back to neutral. So really, happiness for me is about getting back to neutral when you're like at like your lowest point.
I love that. I feel like that's it. Like, that's what people need. It's just getting back to neutral sometimes. Sometimes it's not, you're not going to be able to turn that frown upside down. Some days are hard, some days are tough, but getting yourself to neutral, get yourself to that baseline, and then, you take it day by day, moment by moment, it's deep breaths, and then you get there. So that's great. Before we wrap up here, I would love for you to tell us where people can follow you if they want to learn more about you, connect with you, and just get some more Chianti in their lives.
Yes. So where you can find me is on Instagram. I am Chianti Lomax, ChiantiLomax, Chianti Lomax on Instagram. And anything you want to know about me, you can go to the link in my bio. join my private community, email me, schedule a call, any of that stuff. Instagram is the sole source of communication for me.
Perfect. Easy peasy. Very good. Well, thank you so much for being my guest, Chianti. I'll talk to you later. And thank you everybody for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love to see a review and share with us what you learned, what you took away. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Fit Femmes movement. I would love to hear your thoughts on the podcast, so please leave us a review. And sharing is caring. If you know someone who may benefit from this episode, please share it with them. We need more women up-leveling to their highest selves with grace, courage, and ease. If you'd like to connect with me more and have access to free live trainings and join a community of hundreds of other amazing women, then join my free Facebook group, the Fit Femmes Tribe.